Welcome to the Asset Mindset Podcast. Today, we have a special guest, Tony Blauer. He is an amazing person. For decades, he has been doing things in the martial art world, self-defense. Mindset is incredible. I love the shirt he's wearing today, No Fear, and I think there's a pun on that a little bit. But I'm proud to have you here. Thank you for all the work you've been doing in the world. You've touched people around the world. And please introduce yourself to the Asset Mindset audience.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And the t-shirt, for those of you that are watching, my shirt, it's one of the divisions of my company, where we do a lot of like mindset work, and it's all about managing fear and changing your relationship with fear. And it's kind of a play on the old adrenaline company, the No Fear company, NOFEAR. I think we all had those t-shirts when we were kids. But this is spelled, for those of you who can't see, KNOW, No Fear. And it's really, it's really part of the message that when we get to know fear and change our relationship with fear, it actually can change our lives. So, I don't know, as far as introduction, I'm Tony Blauer, and I was raised by wolves in the woods, and here I am. Just kidding. But happy to be here, excited to be here and share whatever I can with your audience.
Well, thank you again for coming on. Let's start off with talking about fear.
Sure.
What do you define fear as, and how do you teach people to cope with it?
Yeah. So, I mean, fear is obviously a companion to all of us. And depending on how you were raised and who raised you, I have found, and I'm 65 now, so I'm not just, making shit up, just having been around the planet a little bit, that most people's relationship with fear is negative. Nobody's having a great day or two and says, I hope something catastrophic opens tomorrow so I can practice my resiliency. Right? It's like when we're scared by something, a situation, violence, entrepreneurship. I was just talking to a cop this morning who was talking about the two scariest times in his life. One was in a hostage rescue situation where he was sure, because of the circumstances, he was going to get shot, but he had to stay there to make the rescue with the other people that were there. And he said, that fear was palpable. He could really feel the fear because it was obviously unfolding slowly in the hostage rescue. He said the other time, and this surprised me, he says, was when I proposed to my girlfriend. He says, I was down on one knee. I couldn't believe how my heart, and I got goosebumps when he told me that, because it was so metaphysical, that how could something, both events metaphorically could end your life, right? Like, this relationship is that important, and the hostage rescue. So I just share that because a lot of people, especially, type A personalities, which would include me, which would include you, which would include Denny, and probably everyone on the call. I make a joke that in some way we're all control freaks. We all like things how we like things. Just some of us aren't nuts about it. And where I'm going with this is that if you're a type A personality, you don't like feeling like things are out of control. And I remember as a kid, being very active athlete, as an all-around athlete, but I grew up in Canada. I always make the joke, if you're from Canada, you're either a hockey player or a skier. My family was a ski family. I was a high-level skier, and I used to compete. I had competed in gymnastics and wrestling and martial arts, and I was always scared shitless before every tournament. Just didn't want to be there, didn't enjoy it at all. And but I could never wrap my head around the fear, because nobody, my coaches, my parents, my teachers, nobody said fear's your friend. And that was a reframe decades later that I would make when I'm coaching people, whether it's in business or combatives or defensive tactics, where I would say to people, look, if you can make fear an ally, where fear is fuel, we say that fear isn't the enemy, fear is energy. But if you've got, and this is like imprinted from childhood or teenage years, if somebody tells you don't be a pussy, you're afraid, man up, don't be, and so you start to build this relationship like, I better cover up my fear. And I'm not talking about milking vulnerability here. I'm talking about this idea of I've coached a lot of fighters, and a lot of them will go, "I'm not afraid, coach." I go, "How could you not be afraid when you're about to get into a fight? When you get into a fight, I mean, you could get killed, you could get maimed, you could get your nose broken, you can get your eye, you get knocked out, you could get TBI, you could lose. You should be afraid. That's why you train hard. Like, that's why you prepare. It's the fear of losing. So it's really a psychological reframe, but we've done also deep dives into the neurobiology of fear and how that triggers the startle response and how to weaponize the startle response. And that's more of our self-defense side. But our first, you asked me, like I said, such a loaded question, because it's like, where do I start? Uh, when I've had people come to me for public speaking coaching, and in 15 minutes, I totally changed how they think about public speaking. But that was their crisis, and I use it as an example, because that conversation can happen so quickly, where someone else will come and say, "Look, like, fear has kind of like haunted me my whole life. I feel like I should be doing way more with stuff." But I always say, like, fear throttles everything we do, from who we talk to, therefore who are our friends, who we marry, how much weight you lift, whether you defend yourself, when you defend yourself. All of that stuff gets, um, how do I like to say it, is like, if an external stimuli creates a fear spike that redirects you from what you actually wanted to do, that's the problem. Because the fear should be the signal. It shouldn't be a symbol. And for many of us, for me as a kid, fear was a symbol of weakness, a lack of preparedness. And I would actually say to myself, Dan, I'd say, like, I could be in a starting gate getting ready to go down, on this competition. My heart's pounding. I'm sweating, even though it's below zero. And I'm like, the fuck's going on? And I would think, if I'm so good, why am I so scared? But I didn't have I guess the intuition back then, as a teenager, as a kid, to ask my coach about it. And that's really the reframe, where, like, I've trained, tier 1 military groups and stuff, and I force them to talk about fear, and you got to see how quiet the room gets. They'll look,
Oh, we believe it.
yeah. So it's really a taboo subject, but the breakthrough to me is, if you can make fear energy instead of the enemy, things can change.
That's a powerful reframe. I mean, very powerful reframe. I talk about in my book how fear, you have to have fear to be brave and courageous. And it's an opportunity in life, because when you are at that moment, that's a signal that, hey, something special or something intense or something's going down that's serious.
Yeah.
So this is your chance to shine. So don't be afraid of fear. Understand it, respect it. And I think what you're saying about preparing and acknowledging it and using it as energy is great. Can you share with the listeners how to take that reframe and use the fear as energy, as you're talking about?
Well, it just starts with deciding that it's really the power of words. It's almost like when somebody who is a mentor or coach of yours, you're in the corner, or you're about to, go do a mission, something's about to happen, and somebody who that's that relationship where, if they give you a nod or a smack on the ass, like a coach, like, you feel better. Someone just puts their hand on your shoulder and says, "You got this," and you do your little like it. One of the biggest reframes in the program is, in real time, we need to be our own coach. And so so you got to be able to say that to yourself. We can't outsource that to our coach or a team leader. And I remember, like, a lot of athletes and probably a lot of warriors are superstitious, right? So I can remember, like, one guy, changing room, going, "My lucky socks, my lucky socks." He'd forgotten. And I tried to explain to him, your socks have nothing to do with how good your left hook is. Trust me. Right. But if you think it is, so the connection there is the mind navigates the body, There's no such thing as muscle memory in the literal sense or actual sense. The way martial artists and coaches talk about muscle memory, it doesn't exist. Muscles don't have memory. There's neural patterns. There's motor engrams, and so on and so forth, myelinated neurons and stuff. But there's no, you can't cut your muscle open and go, look, there's a memory of a fucking palm strike. And what that means is when we're disconnected from what we need to do, we don't have access to what we were trained to do. I liken and I loved what you said about fear, is it was almost like we were two peas in a pod, because I say you can't be brave if you're not afraid. The primary ingredient of courage is fear. That if this is a glass of courage, all that's in here is fear. Because if you're not afraid to do something, then it wasn't courageous what you did. If you run into a firefight or to, save a cat from a burning building, and I go, my God, that was the bravest thing you ever did. And you go, I wasn't afraid. I don't like fire. I don't believe in fire. I don't like, there was no courage. Therefore, there was no need for the fear. The fear component is when, that's the obstacle. When we feel the fear and then we need to do it. Of course, there's all the great maxims around that. So the most important skill isn't like, okay, Tony, back to your question, how do we, for the listeners, how do they shape or take that fear and make it actionable? It starts with how you think, because the mind navigates the body. So years ago, I wrote an article for, Caliber Press, for their police science training course. And it was an article called The Theory of Presumed Compliance. And in it, I said, how you think affects how you feel, and how you feel affects how you think, and both influence how and when you'll move. And so the refractory delay, I would interview soldiers and other military personnel who'd been in ambushes. And I go, talk to me about your ambush. They go, oh, and they all very quickly say immediate action drill kicked in. And I go, well, what'd you do before your immediate action? And they look at me like confused. What do you mean? Like that was the immediate action. I go, let the nano moment before the immediate action, where you're walking along, low ready, high ready, depending on what service you're in, and AK-47 rounds went by your head, and you threw yourself offline, rolled offline, and then returned fire. What did you do before you deployed the immediate action drill? And it always takes a couple of minutes before they realized that what they did was fuck. They all did a startle response. Hands came up, and some of them got shot in the arm or clipped in the head. But nobody remembers doing the flinch. Well, the fear of dying is what triggers the flinch. When your situational awareness is compromised, your body deploys the startle response. So even at that level, like our whole self-defense system, the SPEAR system, our combatives program, is all predicated on understanding our relationship with fear. Fear triggers the startle response, but fear also triggers the movie in your mind where, and I like to explain it like this, and maybe this will help your audience. When you get a psychological fear spike, and they both could be related to a fight that's happening too slow. Like you're waiting for backup and you start going, oh, fuck, I can't believe I'm going to die right here. Where the fuck is everybody? And you start, that's a movie that you started. And I tell people, the movie in your mind, false expectations appearing real. FEAR acronym is a cool acronym for fear. False expectations appearing real. When we're visualizing an event in the future that's debilitating us in the present. It hasn't happened, but we're so fixated on that movie in our mind. And here's the key takeaway. And this is the breakthrough. When you realize that movie in your mind, it's not me going, hey, think about this. It's you saying, hey, think about this. So you are the producer, the director, the camera crew, and you're the casting team, and you cast yourself as the victim in your own movie. And you see yourself getting your ass kicked. So like that Joe Rogan thing that he made famous, be the hero in your story. When we're training people, we're saying you need to catch yourself in this movie in your mind, visualizing failure. And now you need to stop the movie and you need to rewrite that script. And this can happen taking me minutes to explain it on a podcast. But when you understand it, it's literally a light switch. It's like, what the fuck am I doing? Boom. And having said all that, it doesn't mean, so we say, in our program, make fear your friend, turn fear into fuel, get to know fear. When you get to know fear, you change your relationship with it. You can almost go, like if I was getting ready to get in a fight and I was like, kind of carefree and casual, I'd be going, where the fuck's the fear? George St. Pierre, there's a great video of George St. Pierre. He is, of course,
Yep, yep.
you know, so, like I knew, just to name drop a little bit here, but George was from Montreal. I'm from Montreal. I knew him before he was Rush St. Pierre. He trained. He's a Kyokushin guy, karate fighter who was running classes beside my classes in a school in Montreal, and so he hadn't even started MMA. That's how long I've known him at the time. But so here we are, years later. He comes out and he says in a recent video that that he hated fighting, that he was afraid. He loved the training. He dreaded the fight day. He was afraid. And he said he was afraid before every single fight. He said, I had no problem telling my opponent I was afraid, but I would do everything to prepare for the fight so there were no excuses. And I was ready to go. He said, and then he laughs in this interview. He says, there was one time that I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to fight Matt Serra, and he knocked me out. And then he laughs. He goes, maybe I should have been afraid, right? And that's the whole thing, is like our heroes in military, in MMA, in boxing, because it's not macho to talk about fear, we think there must be something wrong with us because we have a little bit of fear to get on stage, to do a talk, to go into battle, to, whatever it is. Like, think about like, how many people fast roping or skydiving, terrified. I have a fun story down at Fort Bragg, where, I was there for to give a week-long course, and I'm meeting the guys to discuss, the training that I designed for the week. And we met on a Saturday. And after the talk, we're in a coffee shop. One of the guys says, hey, do you want to go jumping? Now, I'm afraid of heights. I don't fucking like putting the star on the Christmas tree. I try to get my kids to do it. I don't like climbing up on a ladder. And, so the guy says, hey, you want to go jumping this afternoon? And we're sitting there. So like, I'm at the table. I take my fingers like this and I go, you like jumping, like up and down? He goes, ha, ha, ha. He goes, no, skydiving. I said, I know what you meant. I go like this. I look at my watch. I go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm busy all afternoon. And he goes, oh, aren't you Mr. Fear Management? And he gives the air quotes. And I say, yeah, I am. I'm managing my fear by not jumping out of an airplane. So he laughs like you're laughing, and the guy beside him laughs, but it's a nervous laugh. And in that nano moment, I knew that one guy liked jumping, the other guy didn't. Now, they're both in the same tier 1 unit. So in order to be in that unit, you had to have qualified. You had to be completely experienced. But the example here for your listeners, and I know you're tracking this, is, and I say it in more simple terms, there are some things in life we need to do afraid. We don't have time to stress inoculate and do the reps. And even if you're stress inoculated, there's still fear. You've just reframed it or reworded it. There's no operator that kicks down a door that doesn't have some sort of pre-engagement ritual, whether it's closing his eyes, a little prayer, a little, like, that's all self-regulation. That's all fear management. But an untrained person is like, fuck, I'm so nervous. Like they're expressing it, or they're pretending it's not there, which is worse. So I know I'm all over the place. I get excited with this shit, man.
No, this is good. This is great. I love this. Tony, we're 2 peas in the pod, like you said. I mean, I use that same exact fear acronym, false evidence appearing real, because people do. They project things in their life or their goals or what could go wrong or this could happen or that. And I'm like, stop, stop, please. Just look where you're at now, be in the moment, and then control what you can control. So let's talk about the inner dialogue. When did you first realize that your inner dialogue was shaping your reality?
At a super, super young age, but I didn't have the self-awareness to have a conversation. Like I said earlier, I'd be up at bat, 11 years old, 12 years old, thinking, don't strike out, don't strike out. And I'd be going, fuck, man, come on, something like, what do you, and I was aware I was doing that, but I didn't have the wisdom, experience, because I was so young, to go like, that's not a productive way to talk or think. None of my coaches around me could go, hey, like, you're a good athlete. Why are you striking out? What are you thinking about it? And I made a joke years later when I started coaching teams and people and organizations. And I always say coaching, like as defensive tactics or combatives. I'm still coaching. I define a coach as somebody who's trying to improve performance. So if I'm working with a military team or a pro fighter or whatever, it's just about improving performance. And I would say that most people who call themselves coaches are really just teachers or instructors. They're regurgitating biomechanics or maxims. Try harder. Come on, you got this. But they're not peeling an onion, looking at what are you thinking about now that's causing this hesitation. It's almost like a fear spike in your mind is like a stovepipe in a gunfight. And this is a really powerful metaphor. You pull your gun out and you're starting to fight. And I've seen guys who I train some very skilled people, but even people who don't have a lot of combat experience, if they carry a gun, I make this joke at every course, man. Most of you are better at clearing a jam than you are at shooting a target. People have got really good at the precision and timing and coordination of clearing a jam, because they recognize the inoperable weapon is a potential death sentence in that moment. But still, and this is the irony, is they'll clear that jam and then turn their head away if they're engaging in a force on force. And I'm talking about, it could be a gunfight or it could be, simunitions or UTM or whatever. And guys are missing shots because of fear. When you flinch in force on force training, if you go into a shoot house now, and I'm assuming a lot of the people who listen to your show are active or retired. If you go into a shoot house, most of the missed rounds, if you look at a wall above a door, that door is covered in orange and not orange, purple and pink and blue and all the different simunition colors that the rounds create. How is it if the door is 7 or 8 feet, I don't know what the height of the door is, how is it that if you look above the door in a shoot house, there's no wood, it's just painted with marking cartridge rounds? When we flinch, our hands always come up to protect our heads. So if I've got a little circ pistol here, if I come in and I'm scanning the room and all of a sudden the bad guy comes running through the door and I pull the trigger, that should be hitting the person's center mass or in their face. How is it that you're missing 5, 6, 7, 8 feet above a target in a 10-foot room? And those of you listening, if you're deep into this, understand that the startle response hijacks executive function and bypasses your cognitive brain. So we turn and we flinch, but we flinch our eyes because we don't realize we flinch. Most people I train with don't even know that they're flinching. But the connection to this, and I know I'm down in a rabbit hole here, is that it's the fear of getting shot, even though it's a training exercise, still elicits this flinch. And so what I tell people, and let's go back to the metaphor, which is so powerful for people who carry guns or have carried guns, is the fear spike is like the stovepipe in life. That even though you're there in the meeting, in the relationship, trying to save your marriage, trying to talk to your kids, trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to diffuse, being a courageous bystander, trying to, diffuse something in the street. And you're worrying about this or, shit, what if it escalates? What if I do this? What am I getting involved in? What if they get, those are all fear entertainments, right? And they can spawn a new script in your mind and hijack your focus from what you need to do there. Here's the tricky part, man, is some of that needs to be entertained. The optics today with CCTV and every fucking idiot with a smartphone, when we looked at I forget that kid's name, that Marine that stopped that violent attack on the subway in New York a couple years ago and then goes to jail. That impacted all of us. You watch that and you go, I got to rethink being a courageous bystander now.
Mm-hmm.
That's fear. That's a stovepipe because you want to engage, but you're going click and the operating system is jammed. So I love that. I love sharing that with shooters. The fear spike is like a stovepipe for the mind.
No,
We
that's
got to clear it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You do. You got to clear it and you got to move on. I use an example as being a page master, like turn the page in your thoughts. Like when you get stuck, that stovepipe, don't start seeing that fear and keep it. All right. Acknowledge it. It's there, but turn the page. Go to the next page. What do you want to focus on? What do you need to do next?
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of guys at my level or martial artists, people that work out, that's their management. They can do that. That happens. They have that spike. And then, okay, now I'm shifting. And I think a lot of people aren't able to recognize that and make the shift. Do you have any tips or tricks on how someone can get past fear and make that shift so they don't play out that theory or that movie in their head that you're talking
A
about?
lot of that is experience. And I use the term practice courage. Courage is like a muscle, practice courage. One of the questions that I ask people, and I think everyone can relate to this. So I'll have a seminar, 30, 40, 50 people, and I'll say, who here without fail returns food that isn't cooked the way you asked in a restaurant? And like you're smiling there and laughing, most people don't. There's always maybe one or two or three people in a group, but most people giggle and turn. And I'll point to someone who goes, no, I'm not going to, because they saw a movie where someone put special sauce, right? And then you're right. So I go, that's fear. Now, how do you learn to manage fear? It's like if you got fear of heights, maybe the first thing you do shouldn't be to, jump out of an airplane. Fear of heights. Maybe your first climb shouldn't be Everest. Fear of asserting yourself. Maybe your first intervention shouldn't be at an Antifa rally. You're right. You're trying to talk. You know what I'm saying? So I say practice courage, it's a self-awareness thing. Notice the little things that are creating doubt and hesitation and procrastination. We have some really cool graphics on our No Fear course. And one of them is the fear loop. And we talk about the fear loop always starts where a fear spike is introduced too quickly. Something you weren't expecting. So you go, fuck. And you notice that there's some self-doubt and hesitation. That's normal. It could be as simple as we get up from a meeting. You've walked away from a meeting and left your phone on the bar or a table or your keys, and you walk. And for those of you who can see me, you get up and you take 2 steps and then you go, fuck. Oh, there it is. And you walk back and you get it. So no violence, but you forgot something, introduces doubt. Doubt creates hesitation like dominoes. That's normal. The next thing, if you don't start to solve the problem, is procrastination. That's the problem, because there is no positive spin on procrastination. It literally means, my definition, you're fucking wasting time. No, you should be doing something. But so the self-awareness piece is, how do I understand when I'm procrastinating? Now, I don't know if you know the name Richard Feynman, one of my favorite. He was a mathematician, I think physicist. He said the first principle is to never fool yourself. And remember, you're the easiest person to fool. And it's such an amazing quote, because if I say, hey, man, are you sure you're not rationalizing this? And you go, no, here, and you give yourself this big explanation of why you needed to buy your 73rd gun or another watch or not defend yourself or not work out or what have you. And are you fooling yourself? Are you rationalizing, i.e. telling yourself the rational lie? So if you've got the self-awareness to go, fuck, I'm bullshitting myself here, you need to catch yourself at the procrastination stage. So a lot of these skills, like you're asking me these questions, a lot of these are learning how to identify a smaller challenge and practice courage, because that becomes the muscle of, wow, I'm afraid here, but I know what the right thing is to do, but now I'm going to do it. And then the other thing I tell people is, over and over again, if something is truly outside your comfort zone, there will be a physiological change for it. Are you afraid to brush your teeth? No. But if we fought and I broke one of your teeth and the nerve was exposed and you called your dentist and said, dude, I need you now. And he goes, man, I can't get you in till tomorrow. You're just going to have to suck it up. Take some Motrin. And you went to go brush your teeth. You'd be now doing this. Now you're afraid to brush your teeth because of something else. So it's not about the skill, it's about the scenario. And so what we need to learn is, okay, the scenario's just changed. Really good at shooting on the range, and now I got to defend myself in my home, and I don't know how many bad guys there are. But I'm really good shoot. But I'm now scared. I'm freaking out. You know, so I always tell people, the people who learn to manage their fear can manage the fight. Meaning, it doesn't guarantee you're going to win, but it guarantees that you're in the fight. So the first thing that happens is that fear spike. So this is the self-awareness piece. So it's not a cool, short, sexy answer. Say this and tap your heels together and say there's no place like home, and and you're good. There's not some Wizard of Oz line. It's doing the fucking work, practicing courage, and it's not always going to come out cool and sexy. My wife has no filter. She will say the things she says to people when she meets them and the questions she asks them. I go, you should have your own podcast. This is insane. And she just says what everyone's thinking, except for in a restaurant. She'll get her food. I'll go, how's that? They overcooked my salmon. I go, well, send it back, man. It's a nice restaurant. Waiter comes by. How's everything? Fine, thank you. Delicious. And I laugh. I go, what are you doing? Like, you have the biggest mouth. I'm shadow banned on Instagram and you're not. I don't understand that. Right. And, but she can't return food. I tease her all the time, but that might be, hopefully your listeners are tracking that. It's you take these smaller little challenges that elicit this fear spike, contemplate them. We have a cool acronym. I'll show you the back of my shirt. So for those of you that see it, the acronym, the back of my shirt, the front of my shirt says no fear. The back of my shirt says fuck fear. But it's not me being some crass American. Fuck fear is a very cool acronym, and it's one of the most potent acronyms from our program. It stands for face it, understand it, control it, know it. And those are the 4 stages, right? So the first thing is we get a fear spike, and it's normal at a cellular level for us to flinch, turn our head, and move away from the danger. That's what we do at a cellular level. So it's not natural to kick down a door, have somebody shooting at you, and go in. So being a firefighter or a gunfighter, that's not natural. That's a trained skill. You got to override the instinct to run away from danger. Face it. Understand it. Train it. Research it. Get mentored. Get coached. Do the right drills so you understand it. So there's sometimes what'll happen is you'll be like, I've had cops that I work with who didn't know what tachypsyche or auditory exclusion or tunnel vision was. Nobody had explained to them in their onboarding. Like, how could guys saying to me, man, I'm in this gunfight and I'm shooting, but I can't hear my gun. All I can hear is my breathing. And I say to the guy, well, that's probably a good sound. If you don't hear yourself breathing, that's probably a bad sound, and you've gone to another dimension. And he's like, but I didn't even know. I was freaking out because I didn't know if my gun was working. And he should have been taught about auditory exclusion, right? Just so that you can make these connections in real time. Because worrying if your gun is firing or not can distract you from what you're shooting at, or maybe worse, like looking at your gun and taking your eyes off the gunfight. So the face it, understand it part is critical. And then the control part is so misunderstood. And that's a reminder that there are things in life that we need to do while afraid. The fear needs to be there. And if we embrace the fear, lean into it and use it as fuel, we can hit that potential flow state where I'm not even thinking about it. And that's the illusion of I wasn't even afraid. And that's because you were like in the zone, man. And then the no fear part is kind of the gift at the end where, okay, I just did a rep and I'm expanding. I went from comfort zone to discomfort zone to holy shit zone. And now my holy shit zone is getting smaller and smaller because I'm doing the right training.
Very powerful stuff.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're sharing. And I definitely want to ask people to pause, go in the description, and look at all the stuff that we have there listed for Tony. Tony is amazing, as you're seeing, has years and years of knowledge, and you can learn more about his programs, what he's doing, and everything that's happening in the description. And of course, follow, like, and subscribe the Asset Mindset Podcast. And definitely share this with someone who may be interested in it, because there's a lot of knowledge here. Thank you, Tony, for sharing. And, I love your sense of humor too. You kind of have that embrace the suck.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
appreciate that, man. Like, we can't take ourselves too seriously, and we gotta have fun. So humor is a big part of it.
now I want to shift gears. Talk to me about victim mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I've lived with that for years, and I think the reason my program, and before I answer that, I had this Krav Maga instructor that got certified. So we have an instructor development course for people who want to integrate our training into their martial arts defensive tactics and combatives. So this guy comes to one of our trainings in Vegas years ago. His name is Jeff DeTesso. And he comes to me as a Krav Maga instructor. And then we stay in touch. He does the certification. He starts to integrate the stuff. And then about a year or so later, we're talking, and he says, your system is therapy. It's really good therapy. And I say, oh, cool. Thanks, man. He says, yeah, a lot of my clients, especially the cycle behavior, your fear management stuff, I use it almost exclusively with some people to help them with their PTSD. And I'm like Jeff, I thought you were a Krav Maga instructor. Well, he says, no, I'm a psychologist. I do Krav on the weekend. I'm like, holy shit. I go, tell me more. He says, the way you break down what we call the cycle of behavior, how to make decisions under duress, and how we're having a good day. This is our scenario. A stimulus is introduced too quickly. We get a fear spike. The movie in our mind starts, and it breaks it down. It's a really cool graphic. And then it's kind of almost like a strip map of you landed here, and here, if you get to here, this is where we can pick you up. Right. And it's like a strip map to get out of that. He says, and I share that with these guys with PTSD, and he's got a love for, warriors, and they're dealing with this in his practice. And he says to me, this is more effective for these guys than anything I've learned in 20 years of psychology. And I say to him, I go, dude, that might be the greatest testimonial I've ever heard. Too bad I can't use it. And, he goes, why? I go, well, you would say that. So if you go to my No Fear website, there's this guy, PhD Jeff DeTesso, saying that. And I like bringing it up because, I didn't graduate school. How the hell did I come up with this stuff? Because I live with fear. And if you live with fear, it's a victim mindset. If you live with fear, the victim mindset is, I'm going to kick this. What if I break my leg? I'm up at bat. What if I strike out? I remember telling the story, the hottest girl in school back in the 70s was this girl, Lucy, and everyone wanted to take her to the prom. And she was so cute. And I knew her a little bit. We were friends, same circle. So one day I'm there like this, man. I go, okay, my God, I'm going to throw up. I'm going to ask Lucy to the prom. So I walk up to her and I go, and I'm like 16 years old, right? So I go, 1976. So I go, hey, hey, Lucy. My voice is breaking. And she goes, hey, Tony, what's up? And I go, my heart's pounding. My mouth is dry. Why? Because the movie has been playing. I've been worrying about this moment, right? False expectations appearing real. She's not going to go with me. Who am I? No. And when you're in the fear loop, you're either worrying about the past or worrying about the future, but you're not in the present. And so she says, what's up? I go, yeah, I want to ask if you were going to be in history class today. Yeah, of course I am. Okay, I'll see you there. And I walk away. Shit, damn it, right? Now, the next day I come back to her and I go, hey, Lucy, no cracking in the voice. I had 24 hours to get my shit together. I go, hey, Lucy, like yesterday, I meant to ask you, but hey, would you go to the prom with me? And she goes, oh my God, I'd love to. And I hear yes. And then immediately she says, but Rick asked me yesterday and I said yes. And I'm like, fuck. And so I tell people, This is such a huge thing, and I hope everyone's paying attention. Fear management is also time management, and time is the only thing you can't get back. When you
Mm.
live in the fear loop, you are consuming time, you are not spending time. Now, the only caveat that I will share with you here is this, and it's super important. You can have a challenge in front of you. There's a problem: financial, health, relationship, violence, and there's fear. There's a time to research what is our battle plan. This isn't like when I talk about this, fuck fear. It's not kamikaze. You're pounding your chest going, I'm not afraid of anybody. Only people who are afraid say, I'm not afraid of anybody. There's a time to be meticulous about the planning. And if we're doing planning a mission, and I go, hey, let me tell you what I'm thinking here. My Murphy concern is this. That's a lucid conversation about fear. What if we get jumped here? What if this? What if this? You want to have your plan Bs and your pace plan and do all that. But someone has to be watching the procrastination filter. Are we
Mm.
fucking around here, or are we actually working on a plan? And as soon as the plan is ready, boom, it's like it was a patent that said, a good plan executed now is better than a better plan that wasn't,
A perfect plan. Yeah.
yeah, that whole thing. Let's fucking go. Violence loves speed. So the most important thing that you can do is improve your mind speed. And mind speed, so a lot of people practice drawing and punching and kicking and shooting and running. Very important. But the mind navigates the body. So if you've got the stovepipe that's creating procrastination, doesn't matter how fast an athlete you are. So yeah, I mean, this is like a big answer to the victim mindset. It all starts with like the self-awareness going, wow, I am visualizing myself screwing this up or making a mess of this or not being successful. That's the victim mindset. And now, and I mean, I use a lot of like these law enforcement or tactical metaphors is you're the hostage of your thoughts, but guess who's the hostage rescue team? You can't call me and you can't call you. Daniel, what's that chapter about? No, dude, that's why I said like a half hour ago, whenever it was, one of the biggest things in our program is teaching people that they're their coach. You need to self-talk yourself through stuff. Yeah, there's a time and a place where you can call up. I mean, people book calls with me and go, hey, help me navigate this, right? But at some point, if it's a legit program, you're setting people free. You got to give them the tools to make it happen on their own.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. That's why I tell people you're your greatest asset. That's the number one. You need to take ownership of your life, and you're your greatest asset. Then surround yourself with good people and be in good environments, and then be an asset to others.
100%.
You start doing that, that's a recipe for success.
Yeah.
And I love you're cutting down to the primal meat of being a human being and having fear, because we all do. And the struggle is real for everyone. And I 100% agree with so many people that say, oh, I'm not afraid of this, or I'm not afraid to get in the ring. Bullshit. And if you don't have that fear, then something's wrong. You're hiding, you're in denial, but it's there. It's part of us. Everybody has it. Listeners, you deal with fear. You're not alone. We all deal with fear. It's management. It's understanding. And go to Tony's acronym, fuck fear. Figure it out. Use that acronym.
Yeah, it's
And no fear too. I love it, man. You are sharing so much knowledge here in this short podcast, years and years of experience working with people at elite levels. And I love how you just simplify it to the analogies and the meanings that you've come up with and the stovepipe so that regular people can just understand. And you're sharing it, you're being a great mentor for the world and other people that are struggling and that are willing to listen and learn from you. So while I mentioned mentorship, is there anybody that's ever mentored you or helped you in your journey?
Man, I get asked that from time to time, and first of all, thank you for what you said, and that was really my point. I don't think I made it clear when I referenced Jeff DeTesso saying, "Hey, this is helping these vets." Um, and what he was saying was what you just said is I don't. There's no psychobabble to it. I'm not I'm not using like big words, and and not that there's anything wrong with big words. I like them too, but uh, when someone's in crisis, they don't need to hear that their limbic system and the amygdala hijack is. It's just, you're here, you need to get here. Let me take your hand and show you how to make that happen. And we need to make things super simple to make them fast. And the there was something else that you said, that everyone's afraid. There are people who, for whatever reason, I call them fucking unicorns, right? And you might have a friend who's just not afraid to fight. And you'll say to him, dude, like, you never back down. You're not afraid to fight. He goes, no, my stepfather, did this when I was a kid, and he told me this and whatever. And I always tell people, we all know a unicorn who's not afraid of public speaking. Or, I got a friend who, no matter what he does, his business is successful. I've been ripped off a bunch of times in business. I've lost millions of dollars. I've been screwed over. And then I got one friend who he can go, I'm going to invest in this. You're that stupid. And it does well. And so I make this joke that we all know unicorns. The problem with the unicorn is, if you are looking at that person going, how does he do it? It means you're not a unicorn, so it doesn't fucking matter. And people are like, that either blows their mind or they don't get it. You can't look at, when I say everyone's afraid, and this guy goes, I'm not afraid. I go, really? And he goes, yeah. I go, well, you're a fucking unicorn then. This doesn't apply to you, but it applies to a million other people, right? So those of you listening to what Dinah said, it's 100%, but you might know somebody who's, thank you, Siri. You might know somebody who's an entrepreneurial genius, or is like this fighter, win, lose, or draw. He has no fear. Let's go. But you can't model their behavior, because you're not a unicorn, is the message. If you don't understand how they're doing it, you're not the unicorn. And now you need to use the stuff that's in your book and my No Fear program and other stuff. So, anyhow, so I wanted to kind of expand on that.
No, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I like to expand, because that's what we're here to do. We want to expand people's mindset. We want to expand their thinking. And I'm going to bring it back to mentorship.
Yeah.
Mentors helping teach people to expand their mind. And it seems like you're one hell of a mentor. And I'm just, if you could touch on the subject, or if you want to mention any mentors that you've had and what you've learned.
So it's weird, because I've been asked this a couple of times, and I always feel stupid, because I never had a direct guy who go, well, that's my mentor. But I've had tons of mentors. My first mentor was Bruce Lee, and I never met him. Right. I remember reading in one of the books a quote of his that said, to hell with circumstances, I'll create my own circumstances. And I was 15 years old when I read that, and I knew that was going to be important. And I memorized it right away at 15 years old. And I've carried it with me. And I remember maybe about 3 years ago, I got interviewed for a business book on Bruce Lee. And somehow this guy had come to me, because I was friends with Brandon Lee, Bruce's son. And somehow they got to me and said, can we interview for the book? So they had this question. And I shared that then. Like, it's guided me through business. It's guided me through, like, any problem you face. I got Bruce Lee in the back of my head going, to hell with circumstances, I'll create my own circumstances. So it created the grit and resilience that has been my journey. So it's weird to say that like a dead guy who I never met was my most powerful mentor. But I've had lots of people. I'm because this is a weird, I'm gonna use a big word, serendipity. This is a weird serendipity of being plagued by fear. While I was plagued by fear, I was also obsessed with understanding, because I believed that I had so much potential, and I was confused by the fear. Where some people let it make them stay small, I kept on like, I wouldn't let it consume me. So if fear was my quicksand, here I am 10 years later trying to fucking still, get out. And I started to figure out when I started teaching self-defense, um, I would share ideas that I had and people would use it right away where I go, fuck, like this works for other people. Doesn't seem to work for me, but it works for other people. But it wasn't working for me because I wasn't objective about it. I was subjective about it. What's the mindset they call the growth mindset. So I had, like decades ago, this insatiable desire to have no fear and no fear. And so everything was my mentor is what I'm trying to get at. I was looking anywhere for the hack, I have a zillion apps on my phone. A new app comes out. I pull it because if it can help make my life easier, I want to understand it. So I have I could list 100 people that I learned this business guy taught me this person, taught me that. I saw a picture of Salvador Dali and it had a little quote under it said something to the effect of, I wonder what Salvador Dali will do today. I'm paraphrasing. And I remember reading it going, who the fuck talks about themselves in the third person? What a nutcase. And Salvador Dali was out there, right? And I started looking at it and I ended up writing a whole article on it. Because I stared at it, Daniel, stared at it, and I realized, what if we got up in the morning and said, what is Tony Blauer going to do today? Are you going to fucking scroll Instagram, or are you going to go work out? Are you going to call your parents today, or are you going to, let the Hatfield McCoy, feud continue? What are you going to do to move towards greatness or potential? Right. And so when you talk about yourself in the third person, it's like your coach going, dude, what are you doing? Get off the bench, get to fucking work. And I remember, so I went from making fun and mocking Salvador Dali's third person. What is the Salvador Dali going to do to thinking about it and turning into an article that thousands of people have read and went, that changed my life. Like it made me rethink things. Guess what the title of the article is?
What will you do today?
No, it's Accidental Mentors.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Isn't that pretty? Like, so it's like, what if we went, I'm going out today and there's going to be an accidental mentor, but I'll not notice it if I'm here or on my phone, if I'm not looking at the world and looking to receive information and contemplate it.
Yeah, situational awareness. That's one of the things I try and teach too. People are droning, like we say in the military, you're droning, you're just, or some people call them sheeple, or you're just going through the process and being the herd. You need to step back. And it sounds like you've had situational awareness for a long time, which is fantastic. And I think the sooner we can teach people that at a young age, the more prosperous they're going to be. And I think that's so important for our next generations to realize, that you don't have to go through life just staying within that line. You can create your own circumstances.
Sorry, dude. I got a leaf blower outside. Hold on a second. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if you could hear that, if it was distracting.
A little bit, but
yeah.
So we're good. We'll fix it, and it's all good. I'll get back.
Yeah. The situational awareness is huge, but I'd like to offer for contemplation that situational awareness is intrinsically connected to self-awareness. Meaning that if you don't have a functional, evolving self-awareness, your situational awareness is going to be skewed and prejudiced. Like, metaphoric, you comes to me and goes, man, I get in a fight every Friday night. I don't know what the problem is. I go, dude, you're the problem if you get in a fight every Friday night. In other words, it's not about situational awareness. You're going to the wrong place. You're drinking too much. You're hanging out with the wrong people. That's a self-awareness thing. It doesn't matter how good your situational awareness is. Hey, this guy looks like he wants to fight. Well, it's because you want to fight, right? So it's a self-awareness piece. That's really huge. So I want to offer that to your audience, that the more you work on self-awareness, the greater value your situational awareness will have to you, because you'll see stuff. Like, we see stuff, but if we don't have a functioning, and I'm going to go back to the fear management program, situational awareness will say you should be concerned about that. A lack of self-awareness will rationalize or twist that information. One thing I always ask people, and I'll ask you, have you ever been betrayed in business or in a friendship or in a person or in a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Of course, everyone
Yeah.
has, unless you're a
Yes.
fucking unicorn, all right? So everyone has. And now confirm this. After the dust settled, and we never get past betrayal, but there's a time when we're kind of like over it. We move on, turn the page, as you say, but we go through the holy shit, I can't believe that person just did that. Was there a time in all three categories where you finally were sitting there and went, I fucking knew that person was going to do that? Did you ever have that experience?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So your answers are consistent with 100% of the other people I ask it to. Everyone who's honest, who has a self-awareness, says, yes, I've been betrayed. And yes, after the dust settled, I went, now that I think about it, I could see that, that person, I knew that person was capable of that. So I asked the next question. We don't have a time machine. We can't go back in time to fix it. If you knew it was going to happen, why'd you let it happen? So situationally, we were picking up some sort of potential vibe, potential threat to our safety, emotional, psychological, or physical. But our romantic self, our stubborn self, our egotistical self said they wouldn't dare do that. I'm a self-defense expert. They wouldn't dare do that. I'm a good guy. They wouldn't dare do that. I was nice to them. I lent them money, or I was befriended them. But good people have all been fucked over, and we call it betrayal. And I submit in the system that when we saw the potential, we were too afraid to say anything because we don't like conflict and confrontation, and what if we're wrong and all of that stuff, but ended up being right. So the situational awareness piece here, just to beat a dead horse, remember, fear management equals time management, and situational awareness and self-awareness, they go together. We've all seen pre-contact indicators in different populations who commit crimes, whether it's and I'm not going to get us canceled, but all the different profiling works because it's profiling, right? And
Yeah.
it has nothing to do with anything other than if I get a bad feeling and this is the crazy thing, I decide not to investigate or choose safety because I'm afraid of being called racist or profiling. Like, do you see the irony there? It's like it's my lack of self-awareness and my inability to manage my fear has actually put me in more danger.
No, absolutely. The self is that's taking ownership of that situation and where you put yourself. I know for myself, I spoke up about certain things, but then I still let it happen. I probably should have been more active, and being like, no, I'm not going to let this situation happen.
Yeah.
I saw the writing on the wall. I said something about it. I cautioned about it, and then it still happened. And I should have maybe been more stubborn or more adamant or whatever it is. But hey, we all make mistakes.
Yeah,
It's life.
but
So
that's what it
you
is.
learn.
I just saw a really fun interview with Chuck Norris where he said, he's talking about his first loss at a tournament. And there was a part of his book that he wrote where he said, he basically said, I've never lost a fight, although my record is, 70-11 or something like, he goes, what I mean by that is if I get better from each loss, if I learn, then I can't consider it a loss. So yeah, I agree with you. We all make mistakes. And all we can hope to do really is manage the time between stimulus response. Right. And that's the fear loop. That's the refractory delay.
This is fantastic. Tony, I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your knowledge Please, again, everybody go in the description, look Tony up, follow him, check out his work. He's done amazing things for years. As you've just heard, he has all kinds of knowledge, and you can find mentors everywhere. He can be a mentor. You mentored me and the audience today. Thank you so much, Tony, for being here. And is there anything else that you'd like to share? One last little nugget that you want to leave the audience with?
No, I want to thank you for the opportunity to introduce me to your audience, and it's kind of cool. Thank you for your service and your background, everything you've done. And No, I mean the biggest thing is just the essence of this conversation was that fear is often misunderstood, and many people aren't taught, as I wasn't, that fear can be a fuel that we use. And if you got a negative relationship with fear, then change that. And it begins with that awareness, this idea that fear isn't the enemy, fear is just energy, and you can use it to do great things with your life.
Yep. And anytime you have fear, it's an opportunity to be brave and courageous.
Yeah.
And don't forget to take this opportunity to follow, like, and subscribe, and share this episode with all your friends. And once again, always own your power.